Welcome to Module 2.1, Project Delivery, as part of Section 2, Selecting a Procurement Strategy. This course was developed as part of the project Community-Led Designs for Specialized Housing in the North, which received funding from the Housing Supply Challenge Getting Started round. However, the views expressed are the personal views of the author, and CMHC accepts no responsibility for them. This course is being offered in partnership with the Faculty of Community Services at Toronto Metropolitan University, as well as Wausau Distance Education Centre. As we continue to move through the planning procurement phase, we will now begin to focus on selecting a procurement strategy. By the end of this module, you will be able to answer the following questions. What is a project delivery method? And what are the differences between design, bid, build, and design, build? So what is a project delivery method? A project delivery method describes the relationship between parties of the construction project. Different delivery methods can change the life cycle or phases of a project and can influence the relationships in a project and how a project is administered. Common delivery methods include design, bid, build, design, build, construction management, public-private partnerships, and integrated project delivery. For the purpose of this module, we will be focusing on the first two, design, bid, build, and design, build. This slide provides an overview of the different workflows for project delivery. This can vary quite significantly from community to community and project to project, but typically we have three parties. We have the owner, or the First Nation, the contractor, and in this case we have the architect. However, the architect is not always essential to this process. Within this process, you may be looking at picking a design or a model or project out of a catalog. In that case, elements of the design or architecture piece have already been completed for you. If we look at the first design, bid, build, the solid lines indicate a contract or money flow between two parties. So in design, bid, build, the First Nation will have a contract with the architect or some other type of designer or supplier, and then they will have a separate contract with the contractor or the builder. An example of this would be picking a house package from a material supplier and bringing those materials up into your community, and then picking out a contractor or putting out a tender package to build using the materials that the First Nation secured. This is a common way of doing construction. The second way, we have design, build. You can see in this case there's only one contract. The First Nation has a contract with either the contractor and the builder, who then hires the designer or the architect to figure out what will be built on site. The contract can be the other way around. The First Nation contracts the architect to provide a design or construction package, and then the architect puts that to tender and determines the contractor they are wanting to work with. Depending on the complexity of the project, you would choose between the two processes on which works better for you and for your project. Let's look at both of these processes in a little more detail. Under design, bid, build, the owner enters into separate contracts with a designer or an architect and with a contractor for construction. The designer turns over the drawings and the specifications completed to the best of their ability to the owner to distribute to a contractor through an invitation for bids. Or, depending on the contract, the designer or architect may handle or assist with the bid process. This process is used widely and is very familiar among industry stakeholders. Direct relationships between the owner and the architect, and the owner and the contractor. The owner can become liable or caught in the middle of disputes between designers and contractors. Under design, build, The owner contracts with a single design builder who is responsible for both design and building services. The design or construction team is retained by the design builder. Sometimes these projects are referred to as turnkey projects. The risk is consolidated by having a single contract for the owner for both design and build. Designer and builders can become a more integrated team through this process, making coordination and collaboration much easier. Loss of independent voice in reviewing construction costs and design options. Let's take a look at this case study. A housing manager is working on a project to build 2 houses in a community where there have been issues with miscommunication between designers and builders in the past. In the project scoping phase, the housing manager identifies better coordination and integration of team members as a key goal. The housing manager is not sure whether to use a design build or design bid build process to deliver the project. Which project delivery type do you think the housing manager should choose? There is no correct answer here, but it is up to the project team to determine how they would like to proceed at the community level. If there were miscommunications in the past, and the housing manager chose design bid build, potentially the project manager or project team could mitigate some of those miscommunications. If miscommunication resulted in information not being shared between the designer and the contractor, then potentially there is an argument for design build to remove the middleman from the communication process. It really depends on where communication breakdown is happening. And if it's happening due to information not being shared, maybe we need to remove the middleman. But if it's happening because the designer and the contractor won't talk to each other, maybe there needs to be a middleman to move that communication along more smoothly. There has also been a shortage of labor and a shortage of contractor availability, not just for the remote north, but nationally. You may choose the design bid build process, but you may only get 1 or 2 bids to your tender package. That shortage of contractors nationally has escalated costs as well throughout the construction process. Here are the references and resources used to develop this module.